Hello, and welcome to Mystic Dog Mama, the podcast for soul led dog mamas, where you'll discover how to best nourish your dog and yourself, mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Dr. Alexia Meller. Hello, and welcome back. In this beautiful episode, I'm joined by Nia Finlay, a crystal and spiritual healing practitioner whose gentle yet powerful work helps people reconnect with themselves through the mineral kingdom. Together, we explore the deeper dimensions of crystal healing, from working with crystals and dogs to staying grounded in a noisy, oversaturated wellness world. And we ask the question, what if crystals are actually wise allies, energetic mirrors, and soul-level teachers? We talk about integrity, alignment, and why most of us are more energetically unrooted than we realize, feeling anxious, indecisive, or overwhelmed without quite knowing why. Nia shares her personal journey into healing, chakras, and crystal work, all of which were catalyzed by life-changing events. She also offers practical insights on how you can partner with crystals as supports, not solutions, in your personal healing process. You'll hear us reflect on how physical ailments often carry energetic messages, how to set boundaries with the help of crystals, and what it means to reclaim your power even when life feels heavy. Whether you're crystal curious or deep in your own healing path, this episode is an invitation to soften, to ground, and to remember that you're never alone, and that support is all around you, often in the most ancient and unexpected forms. And if this speaks to your soul, we have just the thing for you this summer season. Summer invites expansion, joy, and connection. But for our dogs and ourselves, it can also bring heat, overwhelm, and restlessness. The Fetch Summer Almanac is your seasonal compass. Rooted in traditional Chinese medicine and created through the lens of dog guardian connection, this guide offers cooling foods, daily rituals, heart-centered practices, and space to reflect so that both you and your dog can move through summer with more ease, rhythm, and presence. This isn't a how-to for doing more. It's a gentle invitation to do less, but with more intention. More listening, more softness, and more joy. It's now available as a downloadable PDF, the very first in our new seasonal living series. You can buy your copy and begin your solstice-aligned journey today. The investment is only £7, and it's available on our online shop at learnfetch.com. I've left the link in the show notes. On that note, let's go. Hi, Nia. Thank you so much for joining me on Mystic Dog Mama today. I am so excited to have this conversation with you.
Hi, thank you for having me. Dogs and crystals, like now I'm in heaven.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, I know. Well, to let the listeners know, this was just sort of like a chance encounter. It was so perfect that I happened to be at basically like a kind of like a country fair type thing. And looking around, I was with Stacy, who I do fetch with, and we just set the intention that we were just going to talk to whoever we needed to talk to. And literally, we turned around, and there you were with a stand with crystals and like magnets. We were just drawn to you.
And I remember saying to you, it just felt like both of you kind of like floated towards me. And, and it was perfect. And that day, I felt it really tested my kind of perseverance, my energy, my ability to let go. The show, I had high expectations. It was the biggest show I'd done to date. um Obviously we'll go through what I actually do, and I thought, okay, I will just give this a go and I will meet who I need to meet. So I removed this expectation that I'm going to sell loads of things, and I did, and I ended up meeting you, and it was just a lovely encounter, and it uplifted me that actually being here isn't all about the selling aspect, it is also about connecting with people. So yeah, it was perfect on both ends, I guess.
It really was. What was really funny too is I had been following you on social media and I didn't realize that that was you and was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. You're the woman who does crystal healing. Oh, we've got to talk." And you have a dog as well. And so exactly like dogs and crystals, does it get any better? I don't think it does. But yeah, can you talk to us a little bit about what it is that you do with crystals? Because you have such a beautiful story about how you got into this work. And I loved when we were chatting off camera last time that we had just such a wonderful chat about your relationship with crystals. And I think you've got a really poignant way of talking about how we can connect with crystals and beyond the kind of the fad of them, but beyond the trend of them and beyond the kind of tendency just to use them in an allopathic way of I'm going to hold on to this to get rid of this. You really are in true integrity and in deep relationship with the crystals. So I would just love for you to share your story about that.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to hear that back. There are times when you, I guess, question yourself and you. It's not always about validation, but we all need it.
Mhm.
So to hear that, it's very rewarding and makes me feel very warm and fuzzy. So thank you. My journey, I guess, with crystals didn't start off as, I was somebody who collected them or, um, yeah, even going to fairs and things that just wasn't part of my kind of personality. And I, from a young age, I've struggled with mental health issues, and in my late 20s, I seeked out therapy because I really needed it. And I felt like that was the start of my healing journey. So because I had the conversations in therapy, I was releasing a lot of this anger, this frustration. I was learning more about myself. And that really did just touch on the surface of who I am and why am I feeling all these feelings. I had family issues, I had this and that. And so, okay, what's going on with me? And then I did get to a point where maybe I put that out there into the universe that I needed to this healing to go deeper. So all the surface level conversations of, this person did this and I did that and that was dealt with to a certain degree. And then I needed to go deeper. And just by chance, as most things happen, it was, I think, 2018 or 2019 now, I just I used to work in Horsham and I came across a crystal shop and I thought, let me just go in. And I'd been working there for a few years and I'd never gone in. And that sparked my interest. And then I went on a 1 day learn it like kind of course on learning about crystals. Again, I don't know why, I just did it. And then I ended up doing a diploma in crystals. So I just signed up to this fairly expensive course, but I felt this urge and this deeper need to learn more about these. I guess I see them as beings because they're not a crystal, they're part of the earth, we're part of the earth. So it's a family, and they came to me at the right time. I see them as my support system, and then following that, because when you're on a healing journey, things come up for you. So there is that element of being ready for it. I then went through a few traumatic kind of life experiences, and the crystals were there for me. The teachings of what does, you know, me as a spiritual person, what does that mean? What does that look like? How can I turn to crystals? How can I invite them into my life to support me, provide that nurturing kind of energy that I really deeply required? So that was my initial journey. I qualified as a crystal and spiritual healer, and then I started making jewelry. Thought, let's try something new. I learnt the skill and I just incorporate all that I know about crystals, healing. My heritage is Indian, so chakras, learning about Ayurveda. There's so much more. I feel like I can just bring it all together, and that is then showcased through the jewelry and then the healing that I do.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I love that you started off by saying that you started to open yourself up to these things through therapy. And I think that's something that often gets discounted when we're talking about the spiritual path, that we sometimes want to kind of skip over that stuff. But there's such value in being witnessed and speaking aloud what's going on for you and having that space held for you to process it at one level. And then I think you're absolutely right that that's often when that deeper level, that kind of spiritual level starts to open up and something comes in is my that's been my experience in talking to a lot of people as well, that it's something shows up or something happens to you, or there's like the universe's 2x4 that hits you, or something steps into your space to kind of lead you to what you are ready for next. And whether that's like you're drawn to a particular shop for whatever reason, or somebody mentions a healing modality to you and you just sort of resonate with it. I love that that was your path into it. But I'm wondering, what do you feel that it has been about crystals in particular that have been so important for your particular journey?
Definitely find that one thing I felt was lacking um, in anything that I did to improve my lifestyle, my life, my well-being, was this instant return. So,
Mm.
for example, some people they'll have a long day at work and they'll come home and they'll have a glass of wine and that's their release. I'm not a drinker, so I never find I have that release. I don't smoke, and I think, okay, I need something where I'm proactively investing in something and I'm getting a return from it. And I felt like when you do therapy, it's a long process. It's a lot of commitment, time, money, bearing your soul to a stranger and then trusting that person to help you work through those feelings. So when I discovered crystals and that room that I recall being in and my tutor, and even talking to you now and getting all these shivers because it feels like sometimes when you feel the shivers, it's like, okay, you're speaking your truth and this feels right. And just being around those people, and we all had the same intention of learning, togetherness. And then I met a few people who would like, when you get to know somebody so well and on a spiritual level, and you just finish each other's sentences, and it was that, and I felt like I belonged finally, and it was so lovely. And then I held a crystal, and I genuinely felt something. And I wasn't expecting to float out of the room or just predict the future. I was like, okay, there is something here because I'm open to it. And I had fun learning.
Mhm.
Again, it wasn't like school where I struggled, or at university. I did well at school, but at university I really struggled. My mental health was really challenged at that point because it wasn't for me. Whereas I committed to a diploma in crystal healing, and I loved every minute of it, even the research paper. And I was like, okay, yep. And I was the first person out of my whole group to finish my course and qualify because I was so eager and it just felt so right. And I find that with crystals, I'm not somebody who encourages people to meditate for such a long time. Like 5 minutes is more than enough. And with a crystal, I'll hold it and I'll talk to it. And I don't expect it to fix anything. I expect it to help me fix my own problems. So it's my instant release. That's why I'm so drawn to them.
I love that. And there's something because they are very tangible. And like you said, they are of the earth and we are of the earth. And I often think actually it's quite similar to how I think about and talk about dogs, that they are our connection back to nature in many respects. I just love that. It's so beautiful. But I wondered, could you maybe talk a little bit more about what you mean, what that's actually kind of like for you to be in relationship with a crystal? How do you work with the crystal and how is it reflecting back to you that kind of space or I guess, is it reflecting a space for you or how is it helping you to evolve on your journey?
Definitely with crystals, I feel like currently there's so much out there. There's so much
Mhm.
information. You can get confused and overwhelmed as to what's right. And for me, it's trusting your gut. So, firstly, the crystals remind me that I am in charge of my own healing. And so, to me, how that then kind of transpires and how I work with the crystals, it's visual for me most of the time. I'll just sit there and I'll look at them, what stands out. And, they're all beautiful, fine. We can all say that, but there will be a day when one of them just shines a little bit brighter. I'm like, oh, okay, we're working together today. Or I'll feel like, okay, there's a reoccurring theme. So, for example, grounding, which is something that a lot of people can relate to. Most of us are ungrounded, and that means we might feel kind of overwhelmed, we'll be anxious, we can't commit to anything, we're indecisive, projects aren't finished, etc. So that usually is I guess a result of being ungrounded. It's not a bad thing, it's just what happens in this physical realm, I guess. And so if I'm feeling ungrounded, I will be drawn to more grounding crystals. So the color wise, they're a bit deeper, darker, denser, so your dark greens, your deep reds, and they reflect the earth to me. You look at a tree, you look at earth, those colors are reflected back into these crystals. And so I will sit with my crystals. I will always dedicate them to my highest good.
Mhm.
So anything you do to kind of bring it back to the integrity, it's not your ego. You're not coming from a point of your ego. It's, this is to my highest good. What's right for me will be kind of worked on within this session. And then I'll just think about if I need grounding roots from my knees down into the earth. Maybe wrapping my roots will be wrapping around those particular crystals that I'm holding in my hand. I will just sit with the energy. I usually, after I've sat with crystals, I'll write something down if something comes to me. So it feels like it's just a point where I'm able to stop, forget about everything that's going on in my life, in the world, which can be quite difficult, and have a moment of connecting, reminding myself that I am powerful, I can heal, I can do this. And then the crystals are there with me and we work together. So, yeah, and I find then I have to give it a few days to integrate that healing. And I will do a daily healing if I feel like it, or there'll be weeks when I haven't done one. I'm like, oh, okay, why do I feel so funny? Because I haven't done a healing. And then I'll write things down. I'll notice numbers. I'll notice the trees, or I'm like, okay, this is as a result of the healing. So that's kind of how my journey is when I'm actually actively healing.
Mm. I love that. And I'm wondering if you could touch on something that we talked about together a little bit privately around our thoughts about the healing journey and what that encompasses, because there's often this tendency to think that healing means getting rid of. Like I've got this ailment, whether mental, physical, spiritual, whatever, and I want to get rid of it. But when we were talking about, I love your take on what the healing journey actually is, what healing looks like. And it's not what I think most people think of. And I would wondered if you would share a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. And it's something that I think we should actually question a lot more.
Hmm.
And it's the why are you doing this? What's the actual purpose? So the way I see myself and I see us as humans is physical self and spiritual self. And when we have an ailment, majority of us are usually reactive in how we treat our bodies and our minds. The thing has happened and then we need to fix it. And so, from my learnings, it's actually the physical self and any ailment that we have, the manifestation of a physical disease
Hmm.
is the last thing on our healing journey. So it's not the first thing that happens, it's the last thing. And so it's quite a lot when I started doing this, I was like, really? How is the headache, the sore throat, the last thing? How can that, I was just dehydrated that day, but actually it goes deeper. So I'll stick with my sore throat. So when I in my 20s, I would always get a sore throat. And I would remedy that with either Indian Ayurvedic like medication or paracetamol or ginger and honey, all of these things, and it would fix it fine. But reoccurring for me in my 20s, sore throat. When I started doing therapy, I started releasing all of this all these thoughts and feelings that I was not able to communicate. I was releasing them from my body, from my kind of emotional energy, my mental energy out. And that was the healing journey. And so if I'm really trying to be precise, I connect the sore throat to my throat chakra, and that is all about communication. I felt for so many years I was not able to communicate my true feelings, talk to the people that I really needed to, and that is why my belief is that it would manifest as a recurring sore throat. And so when you're having this healing journey, yes, we start off with the ailment. It wouldn't harm you in sitting back and thinking, okay, where does this come from? Is this recurring? Is this area that this ailment exists? Does it correspond to any of the chakras? So we have seven main chakras. Is it corresponding to anything like that? If you have, for example, issues in your feet, lower body? Is it a grounding issue? So I feel like when you start learning a bit more about how to heal your body, you start thinking about your energy over the physical ailment. And once you handle the energy, the physical ailment, I appreciate that science does have a place because I too,
Hmm.
I'm using science and medication, but there is a lot to think about when it comes to the physical and the spiritual self and working on your energy level, which is where different healing modalities, crystals, working on your chakras, which are your daily lessons. And if you're
Hmm.
avoiding them and rejecting them, that's why they'll just come back. They'll come back and then they'll come back as a physical ailment. And then you have no choice but to address it. So that's how I kind of visualize and I guess understand healing for me and physical and the spiritual elements and things like that. So yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that's very much in line with how I think about healing too. And I agree. It's kind of a hard pill to swallow when you think about like the physical ailment being the last thing, and that there's been this buildup of like, well, I missed all of these other things and it had to result in this physical thing. But it reminds me a little bit of something, a teaching from Kabbalah, which I'm not a practitioner of Kabbalah, but I love learning more about it. And with Kabbalah meaning being the receiver, and the idea of this life experience and all of the things that happen to us, one, we're being asked to have certainty that everything that is happening to us or that we are experiencing is for the greatest good, regardless of what's happening. So even the things that we don't like, even the dis-ease, etc., that it's happening for the greatest good, and that it's designed to force us into an expansion of the vessel, so that we can then allow more light of the creator into the world. So we become the conduit for the light of the creator, which to me is resonant with what you were talking about of removing the ego. When we cast our ego aside and we look at we are the conduit for this good, then it asks us different questions. And then we can have a different relationship to any of the kind of difficulties that we're experiencing. It doesn't mean we have to like them, but it gives a different level of meaning to what's going on for us, and that it is about kind of opening things up. I remember last time you were talking about like smoky quartz being a challenging kind of crystal. I want to hear more about this, but that there's the gift of the smoky quartz in our lives. And so where is that showing up? Because it's about our own expansion.
Yeah, totally. And like we say, so for example, I find that when there's this kind of, I guess, perception that if you start a healing journey, everything will be fine,
Right.
and of course, why wouldn't we want that? We all want that. I want that. I sometimes I sit back and when I sit with I guess my crystal healing circle, and I look and we have conversations. Each and every one of us has gone through a very big life transformation. And we all sit there and we say, are you serious? We're here to try and learn and be, you know, bring more light in, like you say. And yet we're faced with challenge after challenge after challenge. And what has changed is not that challenges no longer come our way, but when they do come our way, we have the tool set and we still struggle, but we have the tool set, but our recovery rate is a lot shorter. And so I find that when you might hear of a crystal helping, somebody or society like helping them to change their lives and transform their lives, sounds like a great idea. But in reality, if you're not ready for it, if you don't have the right toolkit, if you don't have the right support system, some people say, oh, I need to find a new job and therefore what crystal can I select to help me? Okay, that sounds lovely, but do you have the means, are you actually open to looking for a new job? Do you have the energy to search for a new job, to put in the work, and then the courage to quit your job? All of those things. Maybe having that crystal might push you, but if you don't have that the capacity to do that, you might then struggle a little more than if you just stay in that job for a little bit longer until you are, I guess, energetically ready. And you don't
Mhm.
always know. So sometimes you just have to try. And then some things like will come your way. So my example of smoky quartz. So I had my son who was 3 months premature during COVID, and that was a struggle. But that was my first, I always say, having my son, I dealt with it in such a, I would say, energetically beautiful way for myself. I did struggle, but I asked for help. I used to take like my dog Harlequin as my savior. We used to go to the beach every day because we were in Brighton, and that helped me. So I used the tools I had, and he is my pearl. So he's my flowing energy. He's my, light. He's very light. He's small but mighty. All of those things. And then when I had my daughter, 3 years later, it was the most challenging time, and I struggled harder than I did with my son, who was, you'd expect me to have kind of crumbled and, you know, struggled a lot more, but I handled him differently. And with her, she was a lot more challenging because she was, on the one hand, I was able to do all the things I couldn't do with my son, like breastfeed, bring her home the next day, um, go and meet new mums, all these things that I missed out on, I was able to do. But equally, it was such a struggle. My hormones were horrendous. Breastfeeding was really difficult to begin with, the sleep deprivation. So she was my smoky quartz. And smoky quartz to me was the crystal that kind of makes you face your fears, all the dark things, the things that you kind of don't want to admit about yourself. Smoky quartz kind of makes you show up at that level. And she made me show up at that level because I was like, oh my God, I don't want children. I don't like children. Like those things that I was saying that are coming, I don't want the second child. All these things that as mothers, we're kind of felt like we can't say those things. I was saying them, and then I was riddled with guilt. But actually, she's my smoky quartz. She's helping me work through this. And now I have such a beautiful kind of bond with her. And my husband's like, you're so in love with her. I'm like, I know it. It's a bit scary. Like I've got through that. So crystals aren't always happy. Any healing isn't always happy and easy and quick. It shouldn't be. And if it is hard, it means you're really working through a lesson that you've held on to. You don't know how, whatever your beliefs are, if I believe in reincarnation. I come from a Hindu background, more spiritual now, but I believe in reincarnation. So this dense energy I may have been carrying for God knows how long, and now I'm better equipped to deal with it and let that lesson go.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. And I share many of those same beliefs as well. I do believe in reincarnation, and I do believe that we carry different energies, and that I think that's also why our dogs come into our lives, just like our children as well, that they are here to present certain things that are about our deeper integration. And I think ultimately it's about us coming to a real knowing of the light that we are. I think there's such a veil, and we were talking about this as well, of like the veil of that gets lifted with perimenopause, even that you start to, as you come into this stage of life, you start to realize how much you didn't know who you really were because of the veil of hormones, the veil of societal expectations, of conditioning, all of that. Like I think that we're in this time, not only in the stage of our lives that we are personally in, but I think collectively we're coming to this kind of reckoning of what is all of this actually about, and what does it mean to heal when we're asked to even look at things like the environmental crisis, for example. Like, how do we heal this? How do we heal the economic crisis? How do we heal the wars? All of that, like, I think it's all up for grabs at this moment of how we start to think about like what healing actually is and what that's requiring of us and what it's asking of us.
Yeah, definitely. And it does teach you. So the one thing I learned within the diploma of, I learned the scientific side of crystals, and then I've learned the energetic side, and that was great. But more importantly, I learned that we're all responsible for our own healing. And when you are healing together as a collective, it is so powerful. And like I've mentioned to you before, so I had, it was over, I guess, 4 years, but 2 academic years of my diploma. So 14 weekends of healings where, 8 other women are doing healing. We're all healing, doing healings and practicing and playing with crystals. And I had all those opportunities. And the most profound healing I had was when one of my friends put just petals and flowers around me. And again, it was just a reminder that, again, this overconsumption, we always think we need more. as society, it's these just ridiculous expectations that are put on everybody. And you think actually it's like less is more. Uh, a flower and petal healing was more profound for me because that was what I needed energetically versus somebody else who would, one of my friends, I did a healing on her and she was like, I was in Egypt and you were burying me. And I was like, okay, I don't, I didn't think I was that powerful, but and that was her level of healing. And we had so much fun doing that. But as a collective, I feel like it's the continuous reminder that we all have a purpose. And if we want to make change, we're all responsible for our own healing, but we can do it better when we are as a collective, sending energy. And there's nothing wrong in that. In if there's something that whenever, if you, for example, if you light a candle, when you're blowing that candle out, you can always say, can this light, this energy go to where it's needed the most? And if we all did that, think of all that energy going to where it's needed the most. It's not our ego saying, can you send it to number 24 down the road because she was upset today? No, number 24 might not need my energy, but actually somebody's asking for through their prayers, I need some help, God. And then you're providing that support. Not our ego, we're just doing what we're here to do. So I think it's those little reminders, bringing it back. We don't need to have, I don't personally have a huge collection of crystals because I learned that actually by doing that, I'm actually not staying true to myself. So I now just have my set and I work with them because every day it'll be a different healing. I don't need to buy a new crystal for a new healing. I have what I need.
Mhm.
So even that is a reminder for me that overconsumption, I don't need too much. I'm living in gratitude. I have enough. So yeah, it's the little things that we can all do as a collective because life is hard and life is scary at the moment. And sometimes you panic and think I'm not doing enough, but actually, if we do it with intention, then yes, we're doing more than enough.
It's absolutely that intention. No, I love that. And I love too that you are a crystal healer who doesn't have a massive collection of crystals. That's so beautiful and poetic. And I think it also speaks to like we don't need to run out and buy crystals. And also to I would add into that being conscious of the ethics around how we're sourcing crystals and how we're sourcing them and all of that kind of stuff. I think that's an important thing, an important reminder within all of this. But I'm wondering if you could talk about then, what does it actually look like when you're doing a crystal healing with somebody else? What is that process like?
It's quite magical sometimes, I'll be honest. It's so lovely when you get to meet somebody, and also it's kind of a reminder of your ego, like keep your ego in check. So for me, the process is I have a healing space at home. It's not my perfect, beautiful kind of yurt that which I aspire to have at some point, but it works for now. So I'll invite I guess the client, the guest home, and we have a conversation. But beforehand, I will ground myself, protect my energy, just to make sure, and I link up so to the higher good, to the universe, to say that my ego needs to remain intact. So when somebody comes to you, especially for somebody you kind of know, you don't want then your ego to take over and kind of guide the session because it's not about us. It's a reminder that I'm just a vessel. I am a facilitator, so I'm a facilitator of light and energy. And we have a conversation, and it's usually there's the kind of the important bits to keep check of like medical issues, etc. And if somebody is quite fragile, if they have a severe medical issue, if they're pregnant, even if it's children, then I don't always use crystals. I use just spiritual light energy. So that's just using my hands. Just, I guess it would equate to something like Reiki, but I don't touch at all. It's just the spiritual energy. So I'm visualizing light. A lot of my work is visualizing light. That's all I can do. That's what we
Mhm.
want to do, and I'll have a conversation. I'll make sure that the client is comfortable. I have a sound bowl, so I use that to help clear and ground the energy. Because if somebody needs to travel or go quite high in terms of, so crystals have present kind of vibrate at different frequencies. So I will always ground that person's energy first, because like with anything, if you're not grounded, if you don't have a solid foundation, then anything else you do is at risk of failing, of not being as profound as it needs to be. And then I'll step back and I'll just assess the energy, and I'll try and not think about what they've told me as a if somebody says, "Oh, I need you to fix this," I have to remove that from my kind of my psyche just to say no. And I will then look at the crystals. I will just observe, give myself enough time to select the right set of crystals. And crystals, from a scientific, geeky perspective, have inner geometry. So I might select a set of crystals that have the same inner geometry because that leads to a more profound healing, deeper. They might be harmonious in terms of color and or just again their energies. I might then select a pattern to put around them. And I'll just set that up and then let that person stay in that energy and I'll just hold the space. So my work is done. I'm just holding the space. I'll stand back. My eyes are open because you always have to observe the person. Eyes are open and just hold the space. And then once I feel like the energy has kind of reached the level it needs to reach, I'll then cleanse and clear out anything. Because this is the thing I think a lot of people forget about is when you're healing, you're bringing a lot of stuff up. When you're in therapy, you're bringing a lot of stuff up. When you're working with dogs, things are coming up. That dense energy needs to go somewhere. So sometimes visualizing light around the animal, the person, is quite a good way of clearing any dense energy. So I'll be very mindful in clearing that energy and then I'll ground them again so they come back to earth because I don't want them to be all frazzled if it's been quite an intense healing. And then we'll have a chat and then I'll just ask them to think about how they're feeling, maybe journal, send me a message, just a summary how they're feeling. Then I can keep that as their journal if people are not used to journaling, and then I can send that back to them. And then we just hope that that helps them in their journey, and then you have to let go.
Hmm. Yeah, as a Reiki practitioner, that's very similar to what we do in Reiki, and I think you're right. Like our job is I think there's often this misconception, like with Reiki as an example, that you're somehow like sending the Reiki energy to somebody, and it's not that at all. It's very much like you were describing. You're holding that space and you're getting yourself as the practitioner into that open space, clearing your ego, like the ego stepping aside, like you described. And then it's the person that's doing the healing and whatever they're ready for at that particular time, and you're just holding that safe space to witness them and to allow them to kind of explore what it is they need to explore at that particular time. And I think that that's so sacred, and it's something that we miss in our society. You know, we had talked before about like not having, we don't, in the West we don't really have like rites of passages, and we don't take even like women's circles and stuff, even though that's coming back up. I mean, we've been denied those sorts of gatherings and the power of being witnessed, and like you were saying, the power of the collective. We were denied that for so long, and I think we thought somehow that that was not necessarily needed, or it was secondary, or we labeled it as woo or whatever, when in reality it's so integral to how we do heal ourselves individually and collectively.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. And I feel as though it's not, none of it's new. You know, even when you're with your friends and you might sing a song together or, dance together, that in itself is healing. It doesn't have to be a specific format or you have to pay lots of money or, it can be really, really simple. And it is bringing it back and it's about connection, and again, holding space for ourselves, for that person, for Earth. And, we heal each other, but all equally we can send healing to the Earth. We can put our hands or our feet to the earth and send prayers or feelings. You can do that. We are more than capable. And I'm no, I'd say healer, but I'm no better of like I'm not the best healer out there because I'm no better than the next person. We all are equal in that manner. I'm just tuned in. It's the only difference. I've just done a little bit of reading in comparison.
Mhm.
And so if somebody comes and they say, okay, well, how can I do this myself? I always give people two grounding crystals, not one, two, so one by each foot, because I feel like that's one thing you will then take away with you. And if I never see you again, that's job done. Like realistically, we don't want to see the same people over and over again because
Hmm.
then something's not right there. Going back to your GP that means you really have a problem that's just not going away, and that's not what you want. So yeah, and I feel this whole collective, conscious collective, like women's circles, all of that, it's the right time for it to come back, or not come back, I guess, light to be shed on it so we can actually partake in this, just being together collectively. Even for me personally, the night before I gave, no, the night when I went into labor, I was doing a healing, like a collective healing. So like I guess online, we all said myself, my friends, we said, okay, 8 o'clock, we'll just, sit down, have a candle lit, and we'll just be thinking because the lady who did our course, our diploma, Henriette, she passed away that week. So it was a Thursday, and I said, right, let's all get together at 8 o'clock on the Thursday. And my mother-in-law had also passed away 6 months prior to that. So I called my mother-in-law in and I was giving thanks to Henriette and my mother-in-law and all of us. And and my friends, there were six of us. So they were then doing their own healing and calling whoever they needed to. And that night I went into labor. And I've never felt so held. And I had a 12-hour, no meds, nothing, labor. So, and I genuinely believe it's because I was so connected to this powerful kind of female, feminine energy of nurturing. And like I felt empowered to have this child. And it was, I was full term, which is like magical to me because my first was at 26 weeks. So I knew I could do it. And I said, I don't want any medication. I don't want anything. Don't come near me with anything. And I was able to do that. And I feel very blessed and lucky. I know it's not the story for everyone. And that was my story. And I felt it really made an impact because for me personally, because I had the support of the energies, physical and spiritual. So I could do that. So yeah, it can, once you tap into, I feel like it's magic after magic after magic.
It is. And oh, I love that. And that it was like an ancestral healing that you went through as well. And what a beautiful energy for your daughter to come into the world in.
Yeah,
How beautiful. And that's part of her legacy too.
totally. And that's why I feel my biggest challenge because she's ticking so many boxes, everything. And I've always wanted a daughter first, and I had a son, and I was actually sad about having a son, and I was like, oh my God, I just want a daughter. And then I have a daughter, and it's like, wow. And then it was so difficult. So again, it was just a reminder that it can be hard, but it can also be beautiful.
Hmm.
Can also achieve so much when you are struggling. All the tick boxes like breastfeeding. I did it. I was struggling so much, but I did this. They're one of my biggest achievements to date. So it's like we can remind ourselves that there is this beauty, especially when we're struggling, that you are still powerful enough to achieve and tick boxes and do things that make you proud of yourself amongst this kind of struggling period of life. So yeah.
And I imagine that the crystals actually offer a sort of focal point for you as well, that when you're working with them around the things that you are consciously wanting to deal with, you're consciously ready to begin dealing with. And it's that sense, it always reminds me as somebody who has been a practitioner of what's called like hedge witchcraft, which is just basically like British shamanism, the art, where it was, for those who are not familiar with it, it is a practice in earth-based spirituality. And the hedge witch was basically the herbalist, the woman who knew how to use the plants, and she would gather the medicinal plants at the hedges, and she often lived down by the hedges, outside of town, all of that. But she also practices crossing the hedge, which is the shamanic practice of going into the other realms. And I feel like I've lost my train of thought with that. Sorry, I've had a perimenopause moment.
Like the crystals you feel like help out for
Yes,
specific.
sorry. Yeah, they help you focus, which obviously I need perimenopausal focus. I hate when that happens. But they help to focus your intentions, and we do that with our words as well, right? Like I talk about how anything that we're speaking is casting a spell. You are, because you're focusing the energy and then you're putting it out into the world. And I imagine that the crystals offer almost like the reverse of that in a sense. Well, I guess no, you've spoken the intention of I want to work with this thing, with this idea, this problem, this issue, this question, and I've chosen this crystal intentionally to help reflect back to me, but to help give me some guidance and focus when I might need that in order to deal with it.
Yeah, definitely. And I sometimes find if it's not a particular crystal, so for example, when I'm feeling too open from a physical sense, that a lot
Oh.
of people are offloading on me, or I'm struggling at work, I feel like that's because I'm so open that these energies are attracted to this openness, and I see me as a safe space for them to just dump all of their energy onto me. And actually, I don't need that. I can, and I'm so, I guess, like a victim of your own success, so self-aware. And oh my God, I'm too open. That's why I keep getting my husband offloading, and he says to me, "Oh, I am offloading." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's because I'm open." And so I will then sit with a particular crystal and work and say, "Okay, I need to protect my energy." Or I think from, as you know, with practice, with just spending time learning and experience and knowing that actually what I think is, for example, I need to be protected because I'm feeling too open. It may not necessarily be that. It could be that actually I'm too lower level energetically. I need to be higher level energetically. So if that person's energy doesn't match my energy, they can't come to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I am
Mm-hmm.
protected, but actually I'm sitting in my high vibrational energy. So somebody who's slightly lower vibrational is unable to match me. And when I was a very low vibration energy, I was attracting lots of low vibration energy vampires, as I used to call them. So I would sit in this pit of just dense energy and I would struggle, and then your mental health struggles. So I find that when I feel like a certain way, I will then work with a particular crystal to either raise my vibration. So someone can't match me because they're not ready. And it's not like a race or anything. It's like, this is where I want to be, or I will say, okay, I need to protect my energy, and I'll just sit there and I'll just visualize a cloak of protection. So the things that I do is not every day, I'll admit, I'm not that. I'll brush my teeth twice a day, but protecting my energy, I'll forget. We need to do some things just like we brush our teeth. How you wouldn't leave the house without brushing your teeth. Don't leave the house without grounding your energy. So, very quick visualizing roots from your feet down into the ground, or think of a tree that you admire. Just connect to Mother Earth. And then you protect your energy. So, it's a cloak of protection. So, like Harry Potter fans, his invisibility cloak, put that over you. Make sure it's really reflective on the outside. So, any energies that are not for you, they're not part of your lesson, will just be reflected back. And then lastly, it's strengthen your energy. So you put yourself in an egg of light, so golden light around you. And sometimes it's so important. And as you know, we call it the GPS, the ground protect and strengthen. Doing that daily, and you're just building that up. And that's again no crystals. It's not sitting meditating for hours. A quick visualization. You can add affirmations, mantras, what you need to make it your own personal, I guess, daily process of, protecting yourself and strengthening your energy. And that will then, I guess set you up for the day. So it's funny because it's simple things again, just
It
to,
is.
yeah, help.
It is, but like you said, I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. I'm very lazy about that. And I experience the ramifications of being lazy with that as well. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. That's really helpful. I wanted to ask you as well, because we had talked about this previously, and I think it's an important aspect of this work too that doesn't necessarily get brought up a lot. And some of that is it's around cultural appropriation of terms. And I love that you speak about chakras and you work with that from your own heritage, your own background. And I wondered, when we first met, you were talking about the importance of the vibration of the actual words in Sanskrit, and that you were saying like crystals as well carry a frequency. We know that sound and frequency are so important to healing. Could you talk a little bit about that appropriation and how we might in the West want to rethink the notion of chakras?
Yeah, thank you for kind of bringing that to light here as well, to keep this conversation, like start this conversation, and then I hope it continues. And it's not, it's not about, I guess, pointing fingers or making people feel bad about their, I guess some people just don't know, and for me, it's where's the intention? If you are in this, kind of on this path, then especially if you are doing, for example, the place that chakras is mentioned a lot would be yoga. So when you start your yoga, your journey, are you, what's your intention? It is a lifestyle. It's a business for some people. It's income. It's a passion. I appreciate all of that, and it brings the practice of yoga to where it's needed. But also, when it gets so overly saturated and when it's kind of commercialized, that's when we start losing, and the integrity kind of goes with that. So for me, it's to, if I can lead by examples, I can pronounce the words. Obviously, yes, my parents are Indian, so, and I was born here, but I can speak my mum's like native language, so Gujarati is what we speak. So I can pronounce the words. I appreciate that. That's a benefit pro for me. It's the people wanting to try to learn and listening, which is a key thing. And if we really want to have these profound healings, if we really want to learn these lessons, if we really are really serious about our healing and who we are on this earth, then we can't expect to do it the quick and easy way, and we can't stop learning or being open to learning and receiving and being taught. Also asking. So if you are unsure, seek somebody out. There's so many people out there willing to teach and wanting to teach for free and sharing conversations. So we talk about energy. So each crystal has vibrates at a different, whether it's a crystal family, they have a similar vibrational kind of like their frequency, simplifying it, high, medium, and low frequencies. And if we are then not marrying that up with spoken words in the right Sanskrit, like in the right way, we're just mismatching those energies.
Mm.
And so you could be practicing for years and you're not getting there because there's such a mismatch. And I feel like when we say it's chakras, and I don't know where chakra came from, if I'm honest, because even if you think of the English language, it's not S, it's not spelled SH, it's CH. And it's it's saying it's using the right, I guess I don't do yoga, but using the right pose, like calling the poses the Sanskrit terms instead of, I don't know, downward dog or monkey pose or something like that, instead of giving them an English
Mhm.
name to keep them true to, people will need to practice it. I still struggle with naming all the chakras in Sanskrit because I don't speak Sanskrit, but I understand and I can hear and I understand the beauty behind it and the need to pronounce it properly. And I feel like for me, my teachings are, I only make, so for example, I make anklets, and those crystals are low frequency, dense energy crystals because they match up with your root chakra.
Mhm.
So there's no point, if you're intentionally healing, putting up a high vibrational energy around your ankles, because high frequency and low frequency, obviously they're not going to match. And so equally, I won't make a necklace out of, for example, a garnet, which is a dense, a low frequency crystal, because it does not match. Your throat is middle to high frequency, and so you are bringing that energy down.
Mhm.
So there's a mismatch. You can wear a garnet necklace for, from kind of aesthetic, if you don't intentionally want to heal with it, fine, that's okay. But if you're putting that piece of jewelry around you with an intention to heal, to access the healing properties of that crystal, the least you can do for yourself is match it up with the right energy. And when you're pronouncing words, the least you can do for yourself is to pronounce it as best as you can. My son, he has a Hindu Sanskrit name, and his dad's English, and so we took a little bit of practicing on how to pronounce his name. It happened. I get it. So it's just that reminder that it's the intention,
Mhm.
and you get more out of it. You heal quicker if you're saying it correctly, if you're marrying up those energies, is my belief. Someone could come back and say, you're wrong. Okay, brilliant. But that's my belief. So, and that's how I practice and what my values are and morals. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's so helpful. I also, because obviously this audience is dog mums, how would you recommend that somebody go about working about crystals with their dogs?
I definitely feel, again, your dog, you know them best. I always find that if you want to use crystals, and I find that some dogs will love crystals, sound, absolutely love like a sound bowl. If I've taken my dog out for a walk and there's been another dog that's been yapping at him or something and he's not happy, or somebody stroked, this is how particular I am. If somebody I sense that their energy's not great and they've touched my dog, in that moment, I regret I wasn't able to say, please don't touch my dog. So I'll come home and I'll get the sound bowl, or I'll use so snowy quartz, it's a white crystal, snowy quartz, or apophyllite, which is my favorite. It's from India. It's so this is another thing when you think about crystals of where they come from. So rose quartz, for example, is found all over the world. It's love, it's nurturing, it's feminine energy. Apophyllite, it's a white, it looks like clear quartz. And that is from predominantly from India, and it's a deeply for me, it's a deeply cleansing, clearing crystal. And I always find that people go to India to like find themselves and clear out this kind of physical need, and it just resonates with me because I'm like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense why you go to you're attracted to a particular area. The crystals
Yeah.
themselves are doing that. So if you're working with your dog, again, I wouldn't say don't use this particular crystal because you know your dog better than anyone. You can use certain crystals for clearing, for example. So it's not ailment specific, it's energy specific. So you're clearing, or if they're feeling a bit down, you want them, I don't know, they've had surgery or they have had they've lost their spark a little bit, then citrine's a crystal of abundance and joy. Or even labradorite, which is a magical, fun. It's like a cheeky. It really, I'm sure mirrors a lot of dog energies
Mhm.
because they have this magical kind of otherworldly energy. So you can just put that around them or next to them or in their bed, as long as your dog's not one who eats things. Like a kid, I would say the same thing. My favorite crystal is blue lace agate. It's so calming. I have one in my kids' bedrooms. So there's lots of things you could do, and I work more from a what is the overall energy that's required? Is it uplifting? Is it calming? Is it clearing? All of those, I feel like they're the kind of crystals I would advise people on to use. But if you're after specific to fix a specific ailment, then I know that needs deeper work, and therefore a collection of crystals would be required. So yeah, with dogs, I think that they're just happy with what I guess you know them best. So whatever you put around them, um, would be fine. And you can go into a shop. They might be attracted to a particular
Mm.
crystal. That's telling in itself. What when you're sometimes if you're looking for a crystal for your dog or for somebody, you can think about them and then like close your eyes, think about them, and then the crystal that stands out to you is the one that they are they need effectively. That works as well, because your intention is pure. It's for that person, for your dog, for the love of your life, as I call my dog. So it can't go wrong.
Oh, that's so helpful. Thank you for that. Nia, I honestly could just talk to you all day long. This is so wonderful. You're such a beautiful, beautiful soul. Thank you for just being here with us today. If people want to learn about your work and they want to look at your jewelry and all of that kind of stuff, where can they find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Oh, firstly, thank you. That it means so much, and to get to know you and be in this space is, I feel like you said, like seen, and it's just lovely to be around you and get to know you and what you're about, and yeah, just you
Same.
yourself are beautiful too. So
Thank
I
you.
feel very privileged. With regards to my work, I am on Instagram. I have a website, so my website is www.niafinlay.com. And my Instagram is at Nia Finlay. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible, but it's not very telling because you're like, who's Nia Finlay? What does she do? Ow. But yeah, I'd be happy to speak to anyone. I can always have conversations, phone calls. I just love to chat and meet people. And if it's under the kind of the purpose of crystals and dogs, even better.
Perfect. I will leave those links in the show notes as well. So if you didn't catch that, you can go to the show notes and connect with Nia from there. I wanted to ask you one last question before I let you go that I ask all of my guests. And no, I'm going to give you a choice, maybe a combo. You decide how you want to answer this. But normally I ask, what do you feel that your dog Harlequin has taught you about what it means to be human? But I also wonder if crystals might be something you want to reflect on for that as well. What have they taught you about what it means to be human?
Well, it is a lovely question. And he definitely has taught me about keeping things simple and finding the joy in the simple things. And for example, my fondest memory of Harlequin was when we were in Brighton and it was such a hard time. But he's not a water doggy, and he just went into the water and he started swimming, and it was like a like 5 second little swim, and I was just so mesmerized, and the joy just witnessing that, and that's the thing he reminds me. It's like, Mum, look, I can do 5 seconds, and then we'll go again and we'll do a few more, and it was just simple, just at the beach. And yes, he's definitely taught me to keep it simple, and the joy comes from that simplicity of life.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Nia, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me for this beautiful conversation with Nia Finlay. To learn more about Nia and her work, please visit her website, niafinlay.com. I've left this link in the show notes. If this conversation left you feeling inspired and seen, come join us in our Fetch First Light Facebook group, a community of like-hearted dog guardians sharing our experiences of nourishing our dogs and ourselves, mind, body, and soul. If you're not familiar with Fetch, it's Stacey Renfree's and my signature framework that supports you in becoming your dog's health advocate through the pillars of optimal health: fresh food, energetics, targeted approaches, curiosity, and holistic health. We help you to cut through the noise and ditch the overwhelm. No more Googling symptoms at 2 a.m., no more supplement graveyards, and no more feeling like you have to do this all on your own. We'd love to see you there. You can learn more on our website, learnfetch.com. Again, I've left this in the show notes. All right, until next time.